Or is it the beginning? The octopus stares at you from behind the glass counter with soft eyes. Slowly exhaling, one of the tentacles extends itself as the suction cups on it gently graze your skin. It tastes your signature and lets you into the cold, oceanic depths. As I witness the scene from outside of my dream, I wonder, how does the octopus hear? Does it have ears in its tentacles? Is it ambisonic and finely tuned to the many microtonal frequencies that are emitted when nervous? Does it strum through them as the statocist orients their movement? No one knows whether cephalopods can detect sound frequencies above 400 Hz. Yet, anyone who has crossed over into the habitat of the last remaining cephalopods in recent years claims to have heard the spectral songs of Gaia that seem to play on ceaselessly, lest the homeostasis of the earthly systems gets ruffled. I watch you float through the lilting melodies, swirling around the song lines until you're seen no more. Pause. Lovecraft describes Thulu as a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus like head, whose face was a mass of feelers, a scaly, rubbery looking body, prodigious claw on hind and forefeet, and long, narrow wings behind. An unknown number of tentacles surrounding its supposed mouth, its ears have evolved to be no longer human like extrusions on the sides of the head, but are rather spread out through the skin. The first marine geographer who disappeared into the Gaia playlist was known to have been committed to years of research into the proprioception abilities of the octopus. His journal cited Caspar Henderson from his new book, The Book of Barely Imagined Beings, where Caspar writes, the octopus has a mind that calculates and even perhaps possesses a form of awareness. In some ways, their abilities surpass ours. Note 2. Lynn Margulis, 5th Jan 1996. The Gaia hypothesis is a biological idea, but it's not human centered. Those who want Gaia to be an earth goddess for a cuddly, furry human environment find no solace in it. They tend to be critical or to misunderstand. They can buy into the theory only by misinterpreting it. Some critics are worried that the Gaia hypothesis says the environment will respond to any insults done to it and the natural systems will take care of the problems. This, they maintain, gives industries a license to pollute. Yes, Gaia will take care of itself. Yes, environmental excesses will be ameliorated. But it's likely that such restoration of the environment will occur in a world devoid of people. Not too long after, the H.W. thesis of cosmic biology postulated that a rain of extraterrestrial retroviruses played a key role in the diversification of life in our oceans roughly half a billion years ago. Titled Cause of Cambrian Explosion, Terrestrial or Cosmic, the thesis rigorously argues for the bare minimum scientific conclusion that life was seeded on Earth by life bearing comets as soon as conditions on Earth allowed it to flourish, or it just before 4.1 billion years ago. And living organisms such as space resistant and space hardy bacteria, viruses, more complex eukaryotic cells and organisms, for example tardigrades, perhaps even fertilized ova and plant seeds, may have been continuously delivered ever since to Earth, helping to derive further the progress of terrestrial biological evolution. This process, since the time of Kelvin in 1871 and Arrhenius in 1908, has held the scientific name panspermia. This cosmic origins viewpoint, they propose, better handles a wider range of physical, astrophysical, biological, and biophysical facts, often quite inexplicable, if not contradictory, under the dominant terrestrial neo Darwinian paradigm. Evidence of the role of extraterrestrial viruses in affecting terrestrial evolution has recently been plausibly implied in the gene and transcriptome sequencing of cephalopods. The genome of the octopus shows a staggering level of complexity, with 33,000 protein coding genes, more than is present in Homo sapiens. Octopus belongs to the colloid subclass of mollusks that have an evolutionary history that stretches back over 500 million years, although cephalopod phylogenetics is highly inconsistent and confusing. Cephalopods are also very diverse, with the behaviorally complex colloids, squid, cuttlefish, and octopus, presumably arising under a pure terrestrial evolutionary model from the more primitive nautiloids. However, the genetic divergence of octopus from its ancestral colloid subclass is very great, akin to the extreme features seen across many genera and species. Its large brain and sophisticated nervous system, camera like eyes, flexible bodies, instantaneous camouflage via the ability to switch color and shape are just a few of the striking features that appear suddenly on the evolutionary scene. The transformated genes leading from the consensus ancestral nautilus to the common cuttlefish to squid to the common octopus are not easily to be found in any pre existing life form. It is plausible then to suggest that they seem to be borrowed from a far distant future in terms of terrestrial evolution, or more realistically, from the cosmos at large. Such an extraterrestrial origin as an explanation of emergence, of course, runs counter to the prevailing dominant paradigm. Before I learned how to sing in cephalopods, my vocal cords had to be trained. I had to enter into and stretch the inside spaces of my head, nose, and chest for reverberations to be produced, for the notes of the head voice, chest voice, and falsettos to transcend beyond the audible range. The instrumentation strained my spine and gut, but slowly I could feel my somatosensory system develop and the statolith solidifying inside the statocysts. It made me slow down, expend less energy. When I moved and I took quick strides, I could sense the statolith shift and brush against the tiny bristles on my skin. I would have to halt or decelerate again. The active process of homeostasis is one in which tendencies not conducive to life and being could be sensed and countermeasures activated before irreversible damage had been done. But every turn is irreversible. As an autopoietic system produces and reproduces its own elements as well as its own structures, every movement, each moment, inscribes a groove in the surfaces, atmospheres, and environments that foster life. Each groove is a new song that emerges from the earlier tone. Each song emanates from the encounters with the bodies that seek to hear the atmospheric changes of time. An entire epoch glimpsed in the eyes of the octopus that sits behind the glass, ahead of the deep sea trenches, securing the oceanic memories, dreams, and prophecies of a recurrent causality. The negative feedback loop of the song trails on, sustaining cosmic biospheres within its pauses, rhythms, and breaks. Sustaining cosmic biospheres within its pauses, rhythms, and breaks. Note 3. Lynn Margulis, 5th Jan 96. Open quote. Lovelock would say that Earth is an organism. I disagree with this phraseology. No organism eats its own waste. I prefer to say that Earth is an ecosystem, one continuous, enormous ecosystem composed of many component ecosystems. Lovelock's position is to let the people believe that Earth is an organism because if they think it is just a pile of rocks, they kick it, ignore it, and mistreat it. If they think Earth is an organism, they'll tend to treat it with respect. To me, this is a helpful cop out and not science. Yet, I do agree with Lovelock when he claims that most of the things scientists do are not science either. And I realize that by taking the stance he does, he is far more effective than I am in communicating Gaian ideas. If science doesn't fit in with the cultural milieu, people dismiss science. They never reject their cultural milieu. If we are involved in science of which some aspects are not commensurate with the cultural milieu, then we are told that our science is flawed. I suspect that all people have cultural concepts into which science must fit. Although I try to recognize these biases in myself, I'm not sure I cannot entirely avoid them. I try to focus on the direct, observational aspects of science. Gaia is a tough pitch, a system that has worked for over 3 billion years without people. This planet's surface and its atmosphere and environment will continue to evolve long after people and prejudices are gone. Closed quote.